The mining station had been dead for 3 years. It floated in the darkness of space near a planet called Seven, forgotten by everyone who once worked there. The lights were off. The air was cold, nothing moved in its long hallways. Until the salvage ship arrived. The Morning Star was not a big ship. It was old and it made strange noises when it flew. But it was home to a crew of 6 people and aliens who made their living by finding abandoned places and taking what they could sell. They were not rich, but they survived. Captain stood at the front of her ship and looked at the station through the window. She was a woman in her 30s with short black hair and tired eyes. She had been doing this work for 10 years. She had seen many empty stations, but something about this one felt different. "Scan shows no life signs," said the navigator. He was of a species that looked like a tall lizard with blue scales and large yellow eyes. His voice was always nervous. "The station has been empty for a long time. Maybe we should not go inside." "That is why we are here," said. "Empty means no one to fight. We go in, we take what we can, we leave. Simple." The ship's engineer walked up behind her. He was a human man, tall and strong with a serious face. He did not smile often. "The docking port is damaged, but I can make it work. Give me 20 minutes. "Nodded, do it." The crew prepared their equipment. They put on their suits and checked their lights and weapons. Even though the scan showed nothing alive, they were always careful. Space was full of surprises, and most surprises were bad. 20 minutes later, the Morning Star connected to the station. The airlock doors opened with a loud sound of old metal. Cold air rushed out. It smelled like rust and death. Went first, she always went first. Behind her came then Myra. Myra was a bird-like alien with soft brown feathers and quick movements. She was the ship's medic. She did not like dangerous places, but she was brave when she needed to be. The station was dark. Their lights cut through the blackness like knives. They saw old machines covered in dust. They saw chairs and tables knocked over. They saw dark stains on the walls that might have been blood. "What happened here?" Myra asked in a quiet voice. "Does it matter?" said. "Everyone is gone now." They moved through the station slowly, checking each room. They found some useful things: power cells that still worked, medical supplies in sealed boxes, computer parts that could be sold for good money. They put everything in bags and kept moving. Then they reached Cargo Bay 12. The door was different from the others. It was thicker, stronger. There were warning signs on it in 3 different languages. One of them said, "Danger, do not open." "We should listen to the sign," said. His voice was shaking. Looked at the door for a long moment. She could hear something on the other side, a soft sound, like breathing, like crying. "Open it," she said. "Captain, open it." His claws moved across the control panel. The door made a grinding noise and slowly slid open. The smell hit them first. It was the smell of waste and rotting food and something else, something wild. Their lights went into the room and found walls covered in deep scratches, broken containers, torn metal. And in the corner, pressed against the wall, was a creature. Had seen many aliens in her life. She had seen beautiful ones and ugly ones and strange ones, but she had never seen anything like this. It was a cub, a baby, but even as a baby it was as tall as her waist. Its body was covered in scales that were black like the space between stars. It had 6 eyes that burned like orange fire. When it opened its mouth, she saw 2 rows of teeth that looked like they could bite through steel. "What?" Made a sound of pure terror and stepped back. "No, no, 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 Captain, we must leave now, right now." "What is a?" asked. She did not move. "You do not know?" His voice was high with fear. "They are monsters, killers. They destroyed the cluster. 17 billion people dead. They are bred for war. Even the cubs are dangerous. Even the cubs have killed entire crews." The creature in the corner watched them with its 6 burning eyes. It did not move. It did not attack. "It is just a baby," said. "It will not stay a baby, and even now it could kill all of us. We need to leave. Please, Captain." But was looking at the creature more carefully now. She saw things that did not see. She saw how thin it was. She could see its ribs through its scales. She saw how its scales were dull and dry, not shiny like they should be. She saw how one of its legs was bent at a wrong angle. And she saw how it was shaking, not with anger, with fear. It was afraid of them. "How long do you think it has been in here?" asked quietly. "I do not care," said. "We should go." 3 years, said. Everyone looked at him. His face was still serious, but something had changed in his eyes. "The station has been empty for 3 years. This cub has been locked in this room for 3 years. Alone." "Impossible," Myra said. "Nothing could survive that long without food." "Are strong," said. "They can survive many things, but this is not our problem. We should go before it decides to eat us." Did not answer. She was still looking at the cub. It was still looking at her. Six eyes meeting two eyes across the dark room. She thought about what said, monster, killer, dangerous, all of those things might be true, that had done terrible things, she knew the stories, everyone knew the stories. But this was not a fleet of warships. This was not an army of soldiers. This was a baby, starving and hurt and scared, left alone in the dark for 3 years. Slowly reached into her pack, she found a ration bar. It was simple food, nothing special. She unwrapped it. Captain grabbed her arm, his claws dug into her suit. That thing will rip your throat out. Pulled her arm free. Maybe, she said, maybe not. She walked forward step by step. The cub watched her come closer, its body tensed. Its mouth opened slightly, showing those terrible teeth. 5 steps away, 4, 3. Stopped, she bent down slowly and held out the ration bar in her open hand. Hey there, she said softly, are you hungry? The cub did not move. Its eyes moved from her face to her hand to the food, back to her face. She could see it thinking, she could see it trying to understand. Behind her, her crew held their breath, was ready to run, had his hand on his weapon. Myra was praying to gods that did not know. Long seconds passed, the cub's nose moved, it smelled the food. Its stomach made a loud, painful sound. Then slowly, very slowly, it moved forward. It limped on its hurt leg. It kept its eyes on space the whole time, watching for any sudden movement, watching for any sign of danger. It reached her hand, it paused. Its breath was warm on her fingers. And then, with more gentleness than anyone would believe, it took the food from her palm and ate it. Smiled. Good, she said, that is good. The cub finished eating and looked at her again. For a moment, something changed in those 6 orange eyes. The fear was still there, but there was something else now too, something like hope. Stood up slowly, she turned to her crew. Their faces were white with shock. We are taking it with us, she said. What almost screamed, Captain, you cannot be serious. I am always serious, this creature is coming with us. It will kill us all. It is a child, said, a child that someone left to die, and I will not leave it here to finish dying. She looked at each of her crew members, was terrified. Myra was confused, was watching the cub with an expression she could not read. Anyone who wants to stay behind can stay, said, but I am taking this ship and I am taking that cub and I am leaving. Now. No one stayed behind. They walked back to the Morning Star with a monster following behind them. The cub moved slowly, staying close to, watching everything with careful eyes. When they reached the ship, it stopped at the airlock and looked at her. Held out her hand. Come on, she said, you are safe now. The cub looked at her hand, then it looked at the ship, then it looked back at her. And it stepped inside. The airlock closed behind them. The Morning Star disconnected from the dead station. And as they flew away into the stars, sat in the cargo hold with the creature that her crew said would kill them all. It was sleeping now, its head was near her feet, its breathing was slow and peaceful. She did not know what would happen next, she did not know if she had made the right choice, but she knew one thing for certain. Whatever this creature was, whatever it might become, it deserved a chance. Everyone deserved a chance. Even monsters. The Morning Star jumped into hyperspace with a passenger that no one wanted. Had given the cub a small storage room near the back of the ship. It was not much, just 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling. But it was warm and dry, and she had put soft blankets in the corner for it to sleep on. The cub had not moved from those blankets since they left the station. It lay there with its eyes half closed, too tired and too scared to do anything else. Every few hours came to bring it food and water. It ate everything she gave it, but it never made a sound and it never came close to her again. She did not push, she knew that trust took time. But her crew was not so patient. On the second day of travel, they gathered in the mess hall. It was a small room with a metal table and 6 chairs. The walls were covered with pictures and maps and small items that the crew had collected over the years. It was supposed to be a comfortable place, but today there was nothing comfortable about it. Spoke first, he stood with his arms crossed over his chest, and his face was hard like stone. We need to talk about the creature, he said. Was sitting at the table with a cup of cold coffee in her hands. She had not slept well. What about it? You brought it onto our ship, a captain. Do you understand what that means? I understand that I saved a life. You put our lives in danger. His voice was rising. That thing in the cargo hold is not a pet. It is not a child. It is a weapon. The breed them to be killers from the moment they are born. They do not know anything else. Was sitting in the corner as far from the door as possible. His blue scales were pale with fear. He is right, Captain. They are not like other species. They cannot be tamed. They cannot be reasoned with. They exist only to destroy. Then why did it not destroy me? Asked calmly. I held food in my hand. I was close enough for it to reach my throat. Why am I still alive? No one had an answer for that. Myra spoke next. Her feathers were flat against her body, which meant she was nervous. Captain, I have studied I know their history. They were not always like this. Thousands of years ago, they were different. They lived in family groups. They protected each other. They were gentle. What happened? Asked. War happened, a great war that lasted for centuries. They learned that gentleness was weakness. They changed their entire society. They began breeding programs to make their young stronger, faster, more violent. They took cubs from their mothers at birth and raised them in pain and isolation. They taught them that kindness was a trap, that love was a lie, that the only way to survive was to kill before you were killed. That is horrible, said quietly. That is reality, said, and that reality is now sleeping in our cargo hold. Captain, I respect you. I have followed you for 5 years, but this is madness. That creature will grow, it will become stronger, and one day it will remember what it was made to be. Put down her cup and looked at her crew. She looked at whose anger came from fear. She looked at who was shaking in his chair. She looked at Myra, whose scientific mind was fighting against her own instincts. You are right, she said. Everyone blinked in surprise. They are dangerous. They have done terrible things. The stories about the cluster are true. 17 billion people died because of them. I know this. I am not stupid. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were streaks of light as they moved through hyperspace. But I also know something else. I know that every creature is born innocent. No one chooses to be a monster. They are made into monsters by the world around them, by pain, by fear, by loneliness. She turned back to face them. That cub in our cargo hold did not choose to be born. It did not choose to be locked in a dark room for 3 years. It did not choose any of this. And when I offered it kindness, it did not attack me. It took the food gently. It followed me to this ship without hurting anyone. That proves nothing, said, but his voice was less certain now. It proves that there is something in that creature that the breeding programs did not destroy, something that still knows how to trust, how to hope. Eyes were bright with emotion. And I will not throw that away. I will not leave it to die just because I am afraid of what it might become. The room was silent. No one knew what to say. Finally spoke. His voice was small and afraid, but there was something else in it too, something like shame. When I was young, he said, my people were at war with us. We were taught that they were evil, that they would kill us if they had the chance. I believed it. I hated them. He looked at Myra. Then I met Myra, and I learned that everything I believed was wrong. Myra's feathers lifted slightly. She reached out and touched his arm with her wing. I am still afraid, said. I may always be afraid, but perhaps the captain is right. Perhaps we should give the creature a chance. Shook his head, and if the creature kills us all in our sleep, what then? Then I will take responsibility, said, but I do not think that will happen. I cannot explain why. I have a feeling. Feelings do not stop teeth, said, but he did not argue further. He sat down heavily in a chair and rubbed his face with his hands. Fine, we keep the creature, but I want it watched at all times, and if it shows any sign of violence, we put it down. Agreed. Nodded. Agreed. The meeting ended, but the tension did not. The crew went back to their duties, but their eyes kept moving to the back of the ship, where the creature waited in its dark room. Returned to the storage room with more food. She opened the door slowly and stepped inside. The cub was still in the corner, but now its eyes were open. All 6 of them were watching her with an expression that was hard to read. Was it hunger, fear, curiosity? She sat down on the floor a few feet away from it. She placed the food between them. Then she waited. The cub did not move. Minutes passed, 5, 10, 15. Did not move either. She just sat there, quiet and patient, showing the creature that she was not a threat. Outside, she could hear arguing about something. She could hear Myra singing softly to herself in the medical bay. The ship hummed around them, carrying them through the endless darkness of space. Finally, the cub moved. It crawled forward on its belly, keeping its body low, keeping its eyes on her face. It reached the food and began to eat, but it did not run back to the corner when it was done. It stayed close, watching her. Slowly raised her hand. The cub flinched but did not run. She held her hand in the air, palm up, fingers relaxed. I am not going to hurt you, she said softly. I promise. The cub looked at her hand. It looked at her face. Then slowly it stretched its neck forward and touched its nose to her fingers. Its scales were warm, warmer than she expected, and softer too, not hard like armor but smooth like leather. The cub made a sound. It was small and quiet, almost like a question. My name is, she said. I do not know if you understand me, but I want you to know that you are safe now. No one is going to hurt you, not anymore. The cub made the sound again, then it did something that surprised her. It lay down and put its head on her leg. His heart squeezed in her chest. She felt tears burning in her eyes. She did not know why. She had seen many sad things in her life. She had learned not to cry, but something about this moment broke through all of her walls. She put her hand on the cub's head and stroked it gently. The cub closed its eyes. Its breathing slowed. For the first time since they found it, it looked peaceful. "I have got you," whispered. "I have got you." She stayed there for hours. Her legs went numb, her back hurt, but she did not move. She just sat in the dark with the creature that everyone said would kill her, and she let it sleep. When she finally left the room, she found waiting outside. His face was strange, not angry anymore, something else. "I heard you talking to it," he said. And nothing," he paused. "I was wrong before. When I said it would kill us in our sleep, I was just scared." "I know. I am still scared. I know that too." Looked at the closed door. "What are you going to do with it? We cannot keep it in a storage room forever." Smiled tiredly. "I do not know yet, but I will figure it out. I always do." She started to walk away, but's voice stopped her. "Captain." "Oh yes." "What you did in there, sitting with it for hours, talking to it, that took courage." He cleared his throat. I wanted you to know that." Looked back at him. "Thank you, that means a lot." She went to her quarters and fell onto her bed without taking off her boots. She was asleep before her head touched the pillow. In the storage room, the cub woke up alone. But for the first time in 3 years, it was not afraid, because now it knew something that it had never known before. Somewhere in the universe, there was someone who cared. And that changed everything. 3 weeks passed on the Morning Star, and things began to change. The cub was getting stronger. The food that brought every day was filling its body with life again. Its scales became shiny and dark like they were supposed to be. Its injured leg was healing. It could walk now without limping. But more than its body, something in its mind was changing too. Spent hours with it every day. She would sit on the floor and talk to it about everything and nothing. She told it about her childhood on Earth. She told it about her mother who had been kind and her father who had been strict. She told it about the first time she saw the stars from space and how she had cried because they were so beautiful. The cub did not understand her words, but it understood her voice. It understood that her voice was soft and warm and safe. It would listen to her with its 6 eyes half closed, making small sounds of contentment. One day decided that the cub needed a name. "I cannot keep calling you it or creature," she said. "You deserve a real name." The cub tilted its head, watching her with curiosity. Thought for a long time. She wanted a name that meant something. A name that would give the cub an identity beyond what it was born to be. She finally said, "Your name is," "It means wind in my grandmother's language. Wind is free. Wind goes wherever it wants. Wind cannot be caught or controlled." She smiled. "I think that is a good name for you." The cub made a sound. It was not the scared whimper from before. It was something new. Something that almost sounded like happiness. Said again, "Do you like it?" Stood up and walked to her. He was bigger now, almost up to her chest. He pressed his head against her shoulder and made that happy sound again. "I will take that as a yes." The news of the nomming spread through the ship quickly. The crew had different reactions. "Thought it was a bad idea. You are making it think it is one of us," he said nervously. "That is dangerous." Myra thought it was interesting from a scientific point of view. "Giving a name creates a bond," she explained. "It makes the creature real in our minds. It becomes a person instead of a thing." Said nothing, but later that day saw him standing outside the storage room door, looking through the small window at sleeping inside. His face was thoughtful. As the days passed, began to leave the storage room. At first he stayed close to, following her like a shadow. He was afraid of the other crew members. When they came near, he would hide behind his legs and make warning sounds. But slowly, very slowly, he began to accept them. The first one was Myra. She had a gentle way about her, and she moved slowly so she did not scare him. One day she sat on the floor near and held out a piece of dried fruit. "Here," she said softly, "this is sweet, I think you will like it." Looked at and nodded. "It is okay, Myra is a friend." Crept forward and took the fruit from Myra's feathered hand. He ate it quickly and made a surprised sound. Myra was right, it was very sweet, much better than the ration bars. From that day on, began to trust Myra. He would let her examine his leg and check his scales for signs of sickness. He even let her touch his head sometimes, though he always looked nervous when she did. Was harder, he was too afraid to get close to and could smell his fear. Animals always know when someone is afraid, and that makes them afraid too. It was a circle that was hard to break. But one night something happened that changed everything. was working alone in the navigation room when the lights went out. The ship's power system had a problem, and all the lights on the lower deck went dark, was trapped in complete blackness. He panicked, were afraid of the dark. It was built into their biology from millions of years ago when predators hunted them at night, began to scream and cry and beat against the walls, trying to find a way out. No one heard him. The navigation room was far from the crew quarters, and the emergency communication system was not working. But heard him. The cub came padding through the dark hallway, following the sound of cries. He found the door to the navigation room and scratched at it with his claws. Inside, heard the scratching and screamed louder. He thought it was a monster coming to eat him. He curled up in the corner and covered his eyes with his claws. The door opened, saw a shape in the darkness, a shape with 6 glowing orange eyes. He waited to die. But nothing happened. Instead, the shape came closer and pressed against his side. It was warm. It made a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through his body. His panic began to fade. The warmth was comforting. The rumbling sound was soothing. It was like being held by someone who cared. When the lights came back on an hour later, the crew found sitting on the floor with lying across his lap. Both of them were calm. Both of them were okay. After that night was different around, he was still nervous sometimes. But he no longer ran away when the cub came near. Sometimes he even brought treats from his own food. I was wrong about you, said to one day. You are not a monster, you are just different. Did not understand the words, but he understood the feeling behind them. He pressed his head against chest and made that happy sound. Was the last to accept, and it happened in the most unexpected way. One afternoon was working in the engine room. He was fixing a broken machine, and his hands were covered in grease and oil. He was focused on his work and did not notice that had followed him inside. The cub watched work with fascination. He had never seen anything like this before. The machines made interesting sounds. The lights on the control panels blinked in patterns. It was all very strange and wonderful. Moved closer to get a better look. His tail bumped against a tool rack and it fell to the ground with a loud crash. Jumped and spun around, his face was angry. What are you doing here? Get out. Flinched at the loud voice. He remembered loud voices from before, from the dark room on the station. Loud voices meant pain was coming. Loud voices meant he had done something wrong. He backed away, his body low to the ground, his eyes full of fear. Saw that fear and stopped. His anger disappeared. He remembered what had said about the breeding programs, how they raised the cubs in pain and isolation, how they taught them that kindness was a lie. He knelt down slowly and held out his greasy hand. Hey, he said, his voice softer now. I am sorry, I did not mean to scare you. Looked at him with suspicion, but he did not run. I was just surprised, continued. I am not used to having visitors in my engine room, but I guess it is okay. If you want to watch, you can watch. Stayed still for a long moment. Then slowly he crept forward. He sniffed his hand. It smelled like metal and oil, strange but not bad. See, I am not going to hurt you. Carefully reached out and touched the top of his head. The cub tensed but did not pull away. We are okay, you and me, we are okay. From that day on, spent a lot of time in the engine room. He liked watching work. He liked the warmth of the machines and the humming sounds they made. Sometimes he would hand tools by picking them up in his mouth and dropping them at his feet. He is actually helpful, admitted to one evening, faster than any assistant I have ever had. Laughed, I told you he was special. You were right, looked at her seriously. I was wrong, Captain, about everything. That creature is not a weapon, he is family. The word hung in the air between them. Family, it was a big word, a word that meant everything. But it was true. Somehow in the week since they found him on that dead station had become part of their family. He was not just a pet or a passenger. He was one of them. And knew it too. For the first time in his life, he belonged somewhere. He had people who cared about him, people who would protect him. He did not understand everything about his new family. He did not know why they were different from the ones who had hurt him before. But he knew that when he was with them, he felt safe. He felt happy. He felt loved. And that was enough. One night sat on the observation deck looking out at the stars, was beside her, his head resting on her leg. The ship was quiet. Everyone else was asleep. You know, said softly, when I found you I did not know what would happen. Everyone told me I was crazy. They said you would kill us all. But I looked in your eyes and I saw something they did not see. Looked up at her with his 6 orange eyes. I saw a soul that wanted to be good, a soul that just needed a chance. She stroked his head gently. And I am so glad I gave you that chance, because you are the best thing that has happened to this crew in a long time. Made his happy sound and closed his eyes. Outside the window, the stars burned bright against the endless black. Somewhere out there, the Empire was still making weapons, still destroying worlds, still turning innocent cubs into killers. But not this one, not. He had found another way, a better way. And no one would ever take that away from him. 2 months had passed since joined the crew of the Morning Star. He was no longer a starving cub. He was growing fast, now standing taller than his waist with powerful legs and claws that could scratch metal. But his eyes were still gentle. His heart was still kind. The crew had stopped being afraid of him. Now they were proud of him. They showed him to friendly traders and travelers they met at space stations. Look at our, they would say, he is not like the others, he is good. Most people did not believe them. They saw his black scales and burning eyes and ran away, but some people looked closer, some people saw the truth. It was on one of these space stations that the trouble began. Was buying supplies in the market when she noticed a stranger watching her. He was a tall alien with gray skin and cold eyes. She did not recognize his species, but something about the way he looked at her made her feel uneasy. She finished her shopping and went back to the ship. She tried to forget about the stranger, but she could not shake the feeling that something bad was coming. 3 days later, her feeling was proven right. The Morning Star was traveling through a quiet region of space, far from any planets or stations. It was supposed to be safe. There was nothing here but rocks and gas and the empty darkness between stars. Then the warship appeared. It came out from behind a large gas giant where it had been hiding. One moment the space was empty. The next moment there was a ship bigger than anything had ever seen. Its hull was black like death. Its weapons were pointed directly at them. Alarms screamed through the Morning Star. Red lights flashed in every room. His voice came over the speakers, filled with terror. Captain, warship, they came out of nowhere. They have locked weapons on us. Ran to the bridge, was already there trying to find a way to escape, but the warship was too fast. Every time he changed direction, it changed with them. We cannot outrun them, said. His face was pale. Their engines are 3 times stronger than ours. Then we fight, said. Fight, Captain, that ship could destroy us with one shot. We have no chance. Before could answer, the communication system crackled to life. A face appeared on the screen. A face. He was old with scars across his scales and one eye missing. He wore the uniform of a high commander. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. Human ship, you carry stolen property. Return it and we will grant you swift deaths. Refuse and we will tear your ship apart piece by piece. Stood tall and faced the screen. Her heart was pounding but her voice was steady. We have nothing that belongs to you. The commander laughed. It was an ugly sound. Do not play games with me, human. We know you have the cub, the one from 7. He is the offspring of our greatest bloodline. He was bred to be a weapon, the finest weapon our empire has ever produced. He is not a weapon, said. He is a living being. He has thoughts and feelings. He deserves to be free. Free? The commander's one eye burned with anger. They are never free. We are born to serve the empire, to kill and die for the empire. That is our purpose. That is our glory. He leaned forward. Return the cub or I will show you what glory looks like. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Myra said what everyone was thinking. What do we do? Looked at her crew, at who had fought beside her for 5 years, at who was shaking but still at his station, at Myra whose feathers were flat with fear. These were her people, her family. And somewhere in the back of the ship, hiding in the cargo hold, was another member of her family. We do not give them, she said. We find another way. There is no other way, said. We cannot fight, we cannot run. What else is there? I do not know yet, but I will not hand over one of my crew to be turned into a weapon. I will not do it. The warship fired. The Morning Star shook like a toy in a storm. Sparks flew from the walls. Smoke filled the corridors, was thrown to the floor. They hit the engine, shouted. We are losing power. Another hit and another. The warship was not trying to destroy them, not yet. It was crippling them, making them helpless. Then came the hull breach. It happened in the cargo section, right where was hiding. The wall tore open like paper. Cold space rushed in. Emergency doors slammed shut to seal the breach, but not before 5 warriors came through. They were massive, twice the size of, covered in battle armor, carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Their eyes burned with the cold fire of creatures who had never known love or mercy or kindness. Grabbed her pulse pistol and ran toward the cargo section. She could hear the sounds of fighting, roaring, crashing, screaming. She found first. He was lying against a wall, unconscious, his arm bent at a wrong angle. Then she found Myra pinned under a fallen storage container, her feathers stained with blood. Captain Myra gasped, "They took him, they took." "Where?" "The main corridor, there were too many. We tried to stop them, we tried." Did not wait to hear more, she ran. The main corridor was destroyed. The walls were torn. The floor was covered with broken equipment and shattered glass. And in the middle of it all stood, bleeding from a wound on his head, holding a metal pipe like a weapon. 5 warriors surrounded him. Behind them, 2 more warriors were dragging away. The young was struggling, trying to break free, but he was too small, too weak. "Let him go," shouted. The warriors turned to look at her. One of them laughed. "Another human who wants to die, how brave, how foolish." The lead warrior raised his blade, swung his pipe, but the warrior knocked it away easily. He grabbed by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "I will kill this one slowly," the warrior said, as a lesson to the others. "No." Raised her pistol and fired. The shot hit the warrior's armor and did nothing. He did not even flinch. "Weapons from your primitive world cannot hurt us," the warrior said. "Give up. Accept your death with honor." Kept firing shot after shot after shot. None of them did any damage. The warriors laughed at her. Then something changed. A sound filled the corridor. It was a roar, but not like any roar had ever heard. It was deep and powerful and full of something that made even the warriors pause. Had stopped struggling. He was standing still now, his 6 eyes fixed on the scene before him, on being choked, on being surrounded, on his family being destroyed. And something inside him woke up. He roared again, and this time the walls shook. His scales began to glow with a faint orange light, his muscles tensed, his claws extended fully for the first time. The warriors holding him tried to tighten their grip, but was not the weak cub they expected. He twisted his body and threw one of them into the wall so hard that the metal bent. The other tried to run but was faster. He knocked the warrior down with one swipe of his claws. The lead warrior dropped and turned to face this new threat. His one eye narrowed. "So the cub has some fire after all. Good, perhaps you are worth saving." He walked toward his blade ready. "But you need to learn your place. You need to learn that the Empire owns you, your strength, your life, your everything." Did not back down. He stood between the warrior and his fallen friends, his body blocking the way. His eyes were not afraid anymore. They were angry. And beneath the anger, there was something else. Something the breeding programs had tried to destroy but failed. Love. He loved these humans, these strange, small, soft creatures who had found him alone and hungry and had given him everything. Food, shelter, a name, a family. And he would die before he let anyone take that away. "You do not own me," said. It was the first time he had ever spoken. The words came out rough and broken, his throat not used to making such sounds, but they were clear enough. Everyone froze. "What did you say?" the lead warrior demanded. Took a step forward. "I said you do not own me. I am not your weapon. I am not your property. I am wind, and I am free." He roared again, and this time something impossible happened. The other warriors hesitated. They had been bred for war, just like they had been taught to obey without question, but somewhere deep inside them, buried under years of pain and conditioning, there was still a memory of what their species used to be, a memory of family and love and freedom. And Soror woke that memory up. "Brothers," said, his voice stronger now, "sisters, look at what they have made us. Killers, monsters, is this what we want? Is this all we can be?" The warriors looked at each other, the lead warrior's face twisted with rage. "Do not listen to this traitor. He has been corrupted by the humans. Kill him, kill them all." But no one moved. One of the warriors, a young female with fresh scars on her scales, lowered her weapon. "The cub speaks truth. We have forgotten who we were." "We are weapons," the lead warrior said. "That is what we are." "We were not always weapons," the female said. "Once we were more, and maybe we can be more again." The lead warrior screamed with fury and charged at, but before he could reach him, the female warrior stepped in his way. Their blades clashed with a sound like thunder. "Go," she said to over her shoulder. "Take your family and go, we will hold them." Hesitated but was already there, pulling to his feet, shouting for Myra. "Come on, we have to move." Looked at the female warrior, their eyes met. Two, both born to be weapons, both choosing something different. "Thank you," said. "Do not thank me yet, just survive. Show the galaxy that we can change." Nodded, then he turned and ran after his family. Behind them, the sounds of battle continued, but the crew of the Morning Star did not look back. They had escaped for now. But everything had changed. The Empire had found them once, they would find them again. and when they did, would be ready. He was not a weapon anymore, he was a symbol of hope for every who had ever dreamed of being something more. And symbols were harder to kill than warriors. 3 years had passed since the ambush, 3 years since spoke his first words, 3 years since the first warriors chose to defy their empire. Everything was different now. The Morning Star was no longer a small salvage ship hiding in forgotten corners of space. It was the flagship of a small fleet. 12 ships followed wherever led. Ships filled with refugees and rebels and dreamers. Ships filled with people who believed in a better future. And at the heart of it all was... He was fully grown now, standing on his legs. He was taller than any human. His scales were deep black, shining like polished stone. His 6 eyes glowed with quiet wisdom. When he moved, the floor trembled beneath his weight. When he spoke, everyone listened. But he was still gentle, still kind. He played games with the children on the ship. He helped fix engines and build machines. He sat with during long night watches, keeping him company in the dark that no longer scared either of them. And every evening he sat with on the observation deck, watching the stars. "Do you remember," said one night, "when I found you in that cargo bay? You were so small, so scared. I never imagined we would end up here." Made his happy sound, it was deeper now, more like a rumble than a purr. I remember everything, the hunger, the darkness, the fear, and then there was you. I just gave you some food, anyone would have done the same." "No," shook his great head. "Not anyone. Others saw me and saw a monster. You saw me and saw a child. That is the difference. That is why I am here today instead of dead on that station or turned into a weapon by the Empire." Reached up and touched his head, the way she had done when he was small. He was too big for her to stroke now, so she just let her hand rest against his warm scales. "I am proud of you, everything you have become, everything you have done. I have done nothing alone. Everything I am I learned from you, from and Myra, from this family." His eyes softened. "I used to think family meant blood. Now I know it means choice. It means showing up for each other even when it is hard, even when it is dangerous." The door behind them opened, walked in carrying a data pad. His hair was gray now and there were lines on his face that had not been there 3 years ago, but his eyes were still sharp. "Captain, we have news." Turn to face him, good news or bad news. Both handed her the data pad. "The Galactic Council has agreed to meet with us. They want to discuss the situation." This was good news indeed. The Galactic Council was the most powerful political body in known space. Getting a meeting with them had taken years of work and countless negotiations. And the bad news. The Empire knows about the meeting. They have sent a delegation of their own. They will be there too. Felt her stomach tighten. She had known this day would come. The Empire would not let them spread their ideas of freedom and change without a fight, but she had hoped for more time. What do they want? They want to present evidence that is a stolen weapon. They want the Council to order us to return him to the Empire. Paused. And if that fails, they have threatened war. The word hung in the air. War. There were still the most feared warriors in the galaxy. If they went to war against the rebellion, many people would die. Stood up slowly, his full height filled the observation deck. When he spoke, his voice was calm. "I will go to the Council, I will speak for myself." "No," shook her head, "it is too dangerous if the Empire captures you." "Then they capture me, but I will not hide while others fight and die for my freedom." He looked down at her with those 6 glowing eyes. "You taught me that, Mother. You taught me to stand up for what is right even when it is scary." His breath caught in her throat. Mother. He had never called her that before. She felt tears burning in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. "You foolish, brave, wonderful creature," she said softly. "You are going to get yourself killed." "Maybe, but I would rather die free than live as a weapon." Lowered his head until his nose touched her forehead. "Trust me, please." Closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, her face was set with determination. "Okay, we go to the Council, together, all of us." The journey to the Council station took 5 days. During that time, prepared what he would say. He practiced his words until they were perfect. Myra helped him understand the politics and laws, explained the history of the different species who sat on the Council. When they finally arrived, the station was crowded with ships from every corner of the galaxy. News of the meeting had spread, and everyone wanted to see what would happen. Would the Council side with the rebels, or would they bow to threats? The Council chamber was a massive room shaped like a circle. Seats rose up in rings around a central platform where speakers could address the Council members. Representatives from 100 different species watched as, and the crew walked in. On the other side of the room, the delegation waited. At their head was a very old, his scales faded to gray, his body twisted by age. but his eyes were still sharp with hate. The High Commander himself whispered, "Leader of the entire empire, this is bad." The council president, a tall being made of living crystal, called for order. "We are here to discuss the matter of the one called, claimed by the Empire as stolen property. Both parties will have a chance to speak. The Empire will go first." The High Commander stepped forward. His voice was cold and hard. "Honored Council, the matter before you is simple. 3 years ago, a human vessel stole a valuable asset from a facility in our territory. That asset, a genetically engineered warrior of the highest quality, was raised by these criminals and turned against its own people." He pointed at with a twisted claw. "This creature belongs to the Empire. It is our property. We demand its return." Murmurs rippled through the council. Many of them feared many of them would vote however the Empire wanted, just to avoid conflict. Then it was turn. He walked to the central platform. He was so large that he had to be careful not to break anything. When he reached the center, he looked up at the rings of faces watching him. "My name is," he said. His voice was clear and strong. "The High Commander calls me property, an asset, a weapon, and once I believed that too. I believed that I was born to kill and destroy, that I had no other purpose." He paused, letting his words settle. "But then I met a human who saw me differently. She did not see a weapon. She saw a child, a living being who deserved kindness and care. She gave me food when I was starving. She gave me shelter when I was alone. She gave me a name." His eyes moved across the council. He saw fear in many faces, but he also saw curiosity, interest, hope. "They were not always what we are today. Once we lived in family groups. We protected the weak and cared for the old. We knew love, we knew peace, but war changed us, fear changed us. We became what our enemies expected us to be." He turned to look at the High Commander. The old warrior's face was twisted with rage. "I am proof that we can change back. I was bred to be the greatest weapon my species ever produced. And yet here I stand, choosing peace, choosing love, choosing a different path." He looked back at the council. "I am not property, I am a person, and I ask you not as a weapon asking for freedom, but as a being asking for justice, to recognize my right to choose my own life." The chamber was silent, no one moved, no one spoke. Then from somewhere in the upper rings, a single pair of hands began to clap, then another, then another. Soon the entire chamber was filled with applause. The High Commander screamed in fury. "This is a trick, the creature has been corrupted, we will not accept this." "The council will vote," the president said firmly. "All those in favor of recognizing as a sentient being with the right to self-determination." Hands rose, wings spread, tentacles waved, more and more until it was clear that the majority had voted yes. "The motion passes," the president announced. "Is hereby recognized as a free being, the claim of ownership is." The chamber erupted in chaos. The delegation stormed out, making threats of war and destruction. But their words seemed hollow now. Something had shifted. The galaxy had seen a choose piece, and that image was more powerful than any weapon. In the center of the chaos, found. She wrapped her arms around his neck as best she could, and he lowered his head to press against her. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." "We did it," said all of us together. Around them the crew gathered, with his gray hair and proud smile, with tears running down his scales. Myra with her feathers bright and happy. Family not by blood, by choice. Outside the station, the stars waited. There would be more battles ahead. The Empire would not give up easily. But today they had won something more important than any military victory. They had won hope. And hope knew was the most powerful weapon of all. As the morning star flew away from the station, sat on the observation deck one more time. He looked out at the endless darkness and the points of light scattered through it. Somewhere out there, warriors were hearing the news. They were learning that one of their own had stood before the galaxy and demanded to be seen as more than a weapon. Some of them would be angry, some of them would be confused. But some of them hoped would feel something stirring inside them. The same thing he had felt when a human woman offered him food in a dark cargo bay, the feeling that there was another way, a better way. And maybe, just maybe, they would find the courage to choose it. He closed his eyes and let out a long, peaceful breath. "Thank you, Mother," he said softly to the stars, "for believing in me when no one else would." And somewhere in the crew quarters, smiled in her sleep, dreaming of a future where monsters learned to love and children learned to hope. And the galaxy was a little bit brighter because one person had been brave enough to feed a starving cub. This was not the end of the story. It was only the beginnings.